What's up, guys? My name's Cody, and this is another UFC betting breakdown. This time for UFC 266, we have Alexander Volkanovski taking on Brian Ortega, Valentina Shevchenko taking on Lauren Murphy, and those are two title fights. We have Nick Diaz making his return against Robbie Lawler, and it's still a bunch of other dope fights on the card. Can't wait to get into it. Before we do that, make sure you leave a like on the video. Make sure you leave a comment below. Let me know what fights you're most interested about and any bets you have on the card. Like going back and forth with you guys, whether it's in the comments, whether it's on Twitter. Make sure you follow my Twitter, which is going to be in the caption below. My Twitch will be there too. We're going to be live for the fights. And I'm supposed to be doing a post-fight breakdown with Price. A lot of you guys know him, Pryoxis. I'm going to put his link below as well. So make sure you give him a follow. And I appreciate you guys watching. Last week was a good week for us. We had Harris as an underdog and Saryukian Inside the Distance, which both cashed. We did miss out on Gravely and Bohm, but we did make up for that with 2 units with Montel Jackson and Phil Davis, which cashed at plus 110, and 2 units on straight Phil Davis at minus 120, which also cashed. So it was a great week. Even though we had a couple bets fail, still a good profit. Looking to keep that going this card, and a couple plays that I like, couple ones that I'm on the fence about. But before we no spoilers, let's get into it. First fight of the night, we got Omar Moraes taking on Jonathan Pierce, and Moraes did get back on track in his last fight against Shane Young in a decision. Shane Young came in with a decent amount of hype, so it was a good win. And the Giga Chikadze loss, you can, kind of look at it a little differently now that Chikadze has been on a tear. Is 6-0 in the UFC, so I mean, it's not a bad loss. Moraes does have really nice calf kicks, and in general his striking's pretty good. He's also a BJJ black belt, so I didn't love his last performance. It was a little lackluster, but it was still a win. And Shane Young's a good striker, and Moraes was able to look competitive on the feet and just, edge him out in a nice decision. So can't really complain about that. Jonathan Pierce, a lot of people know him as getting destroyed by Joe Lozon, which was supposed to be kind of like a good matchup for him and a Lozon retirement fight. Ended up Joe Lozon just went in there and absolutely mauled him. He did get back on track as well against Kai Kamaka, finish him in the second round, and that was a good win because Kai Kamaka has been pretty durable, and he's training at Fight Ready, so I do think this kid's still getting better. I mean, he's only 29, and, training at a good gym with a bunch of good training partners. You got to think that he's, going to be getting better, but, Moraes, while he is 35, he's training at Hard Knocks 365, a solid gym himself, so I do think this is going to be a good fight, a good opener for the card. It's just one that I'm not really that interested in betting. I do think Moraes is the rightful favorite, but, I just didn't like the volume he was throwing. He looked really just willing to just, get outlanded and lose rounds against Chikadze. And even in his last fight, I just didn't really love, if I was confident he could come out here and put the grappling a little bit on Jonathan Pierce and stick to those calf kicks, I would, but I just haven't really loved the way he's been fighting lately. So I'm going to take Moraes. I'm slightly leaning Omar Moraes, but by decision, but it's not one that I'm looking to bet. I think the value at this point is pretty much gone. So let's move on to the second fight of the night. We got Matthew Simmelsberger taking on Martin Sano. And I actually didn't realize until I started watching tape that this was a guy that I saw years ago at my gym. He went before I was back in Maryland and at American Martial Arts Gym, which is where I train. I was training at UFC gym in Torrance, and he would be in there. He's one of Nick Diaz's boys, and I was there for the Nate and Connor fight, and this was the main guy. He was he was coming off he was security for the Diaz brothers, but apparently he's their boy. Let's be honest, it's the reason he's on the card. Does have a win if you look at over Jeff Neal, but that was forever ago, 2013. Other than that, he's coming off 2 losses and a draw. Basically this is just one of those, we've seen this before. Nick Diaz got him on the card. Is it BJJ black belt? You got to think his grappling's got to be pretty legit, grappling with those guys all the time. But it's just hard to say a whole lot from him, and there's not a lot of tape you can find. And then the little bit there is just against lower level opponents, and it's so long ago. Matthew Simmelsberger, on the other hand, I mean, is coming off a loss, but I mean, it was to Chaos Williams. It was he didn't look terrible in the fight, and before then, got that nice knockout over Jason Witt. Beat Carlton Minus, which got a little dicey, but he did get the win. And I mean, at least has 3 UFC fights at this point, and hasn't looked terrible. He just has definitely have the experience, higher level of competition. I think he's a pretty good grappler himself, so I really feel like he's not gonna be out of the water, or just a fish out of water if Sano can get him down. But overall, I just feel like the striking's gonna be a little bit on Simmelsberger's side. The cardio, we just don't know. We have so many question marks about Sano. I mean, I get you guys who are talking about like, oh, well, plus 340 against Matthew Simmelsberger. Like, that's good odds for anybody. But, it's still just like a massive step up for Sano. And, we don't know what he's been up to these past years. So I still think that, Simmelsberger should be a big favorite. And, again, this is one I just don't see a whole lot of value. If anything, maybe Simmelsberger inside the distance. But I really feel like, Sano, definitely a tough guy, could last. So even that bet is something that I'm just kind of iffy about. So I'm going to lay off these first 2 fights, and especially this third. This just got booked a couple hours ago, and I did like Maximov as a decent, little underdog pick in the previous matchup. But now, taking on Cody Brundage, I don't know what the line's going to be, so I'm just waiting. So look out on Twitter. Like, again, my Twitter's going to be in the caption for possible play on this one. We got to see what the line's going to drop as. But, I would lean Maximov. But, obviously this is a lower level fight. Probably the lowest level fight on the card. So, it's not like one I would typically love to bet. But we'll see what the line is, and we'll come back to it. Next up, we got a dope fight, probably my favorite on the prelims. We got Uros Medic taking on Jalen Turner. And Medic, man, this dude's like, his resume so far is pretty crazy. Just all first round knockouts. He had 1 get to the second round. All his wins are by knockout. Actually, no, he has 2 chokes. What am I talking about? But all his wins are by finish. And this guy just comes out like an absolute bat out of hell. The thing is, obviously, anytime you see this, and especially when you watch his fights, the big question is if he can sustain that. Once he fights somebody, he can't get out of that first round. And, I wouldn't say luckily, but, maybe, if you're in his camp, you could see, okay, you are fighting a guy who has been knocked out 3 times. I mean, actually 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's has 5 losses. Other one being to Matt Frevola, where he's just taken down like 5 times, just controlled. But overall, Jalen Turner's been a pretty tough guy. I mean, he's an absolute massive at the division, and I mean 155. This guy's 6'3". I mean, Medic's not small himself, but 75-inch reach. And 6'3", pretty big for a lightweight. And I like this guy. I mean, his striking's pretty legit. He has been beating on some, Josh Culibao, and Brock Weaver, Kalen Porter, and then Matt Frevola, like I said, just kind of dominated him. I mean, obviously this guy had a really tough debut, and then Matt Frevola's a tough guy, but those 3 wins are a little iffy. And then before then, he hadn't really fought anybody yet. And, I mean, you could say the same thing about Medic. I mean, hasn't fought he was fighting over at Alaska FC, which we all know is, not the stiffest competition. His last 2 wins, I mean, the Elon Cruz and Mikey Gonzalez, knocking both of them out in the first round. I mean, that's definitely impressive. But you just got to know, you got to ask, if he can't get Jalen Turner out in that first round, what's it going to look like? And I do think Turner start to take over for sure. I do think Turner's a live dog. And that's why I probably would, if I was going to bet this fight, I would take Jalen Turner. I'd probably just take him straight. Actually, honestly, I would probably take Turner inside the distance, because I do think Medic is going to be super live for that first round finish. And if he doesn't get it, Turner's definitely going to, that second half of the fight, into the second and third round, he's going to start to take over. His striking is probably a little bit more technical, a little bit more sharp, and Medic just goes wild for the finish. I do think that when the first time that doesn't happen, he's probably going to gas out. So I'm going to take Jalen Turner as a slight underdog, plus 105. I'm going to take him by TKO, but I would not be surprised if a submission happened. I think inside the distance is a safer bet. Next up, we got Roxanne Modafferi taking on Talia Santos, and this is a pretty crazy matchup. I mean, Roxanne's almost always coming in as a big underdog. Kind of crazy resume. Train over at Syndicate MMA, great gym. Coming off that loss to Viviana Rujo. Then before that, she beat Andrea Lee. Before that, she lost to Lauren Murphy, which was a close fight. Beat Macy Barber, lost to Jennifer Maia, beat Antonina Shevchenko, lost to Sarjara Eubanks, beat Barb Honchak, lost to Nico Montano. So it's loss, win. And some of y'all who like to bet on stuff like that are going to be like, oh, well, now she's due for a win. I don't like to bet on stuff like that. Just, had to be mentioned. Basically, in this matchup, man, it's like Roxanne, she's scrappy. And I do think maybe you could give her the cardio edge. Other than that, though, it's like Talia's stronger. She's way more athletic. She's way faster, hits harder, probably better technically almost everywhere. But Roxanne, she just has a ton of experience, and she's just tough as shit. So, I mean, the pick's got to still be Talia Santos. But, if it gets that third round and Talia starts to get slowed down a little, man, you never can count out Roxy. I mean, she's not really a finisher a ton, but maybe, just maybe, if Talia gasses out, she can't, dictate this fight from the beginning, and Roxanne gets gassed her out a little bit. By the second half of the fight, maybe we can see Roxanne start to turn the tide a little bit. But overall, it's tough to bank on Roxanne in this matchup. I just feel like Talia's kind of got her beat everywhere. Should be able to land the better strikes on the feet. If she wants to take Roxanne down, I think she can take her down. Roxanne is 39 at this point. It's definitely up there for this division. Not to mention she has like 45 fights. 43. So, yeah, gonna have to go with Talia Santos, but I don't know if she gets her out of there. I'm actually gonna go with Talia Santos by decision. I know a lot of people think she's just gonna finish Roxanne easily, but I don't know about that. Roxanne's definitely tough. I'm gonna take Santos by decision, but the line's too wide. I mean, I do think Santos is, she's a beast, but Roxanne, just at this line it's not one that I would be trying to parlay Talia or anything like that. But I am gonna go Talia Santos by decision, and let's move on. Next up, we got Shamil Abdurakhmanov. Phew, man, that last name's always tough for me. Taking on Chris Daukaus, and Shamil's definitely been a little MIA for a while. If you see here, he has 5 fights that he had to pull out of. Hasn't fought since 2019. It's been 2 years, and it was a loss via ground and pound to Curtis Blades. And before then, he had some good wins. Ty Burra, Arlovsky, Chase Sherman, lost to Derek Lewis, beat Walt Harris, beat Anthony Hamilton, lost to Tim Johnson. So these losses are to tough guys. Even Tony Lopez, way back in 2011, he's only losing to top guys. But in this fight, I do think, it's going to be a tough matchup because Chris Daukaus has a lot of momentum right now. He's coming off, he's 3-0 in the UFC with 3 first-round knockouts. And before then, he hadn't fought the stiffest competition. Apparently, he's a black belt. We haven't really had to see that yet. There's really not been a lot of grappling yet in his career. But in this fight, I do think the grappling would be close enough to where I don't think Shamil can just go in there and just take him down and control him for 3 rounds. Maybe if Chris has been getting a lot of these first round finishes, maybe he starts to slow down a little bit if he can't get the finish, and we could see Shamil, start to use his grappling a little bit more then. But overall, I just feel like in this fight, Chris is going to be so much faster, so much more explosive. You got to wonder where Shamil's been at. He's been pulling out of all these fights. I know the last one was for COVID, maybe the last 2. But before then, what are these injuries he's dealing with? I mean, and then just physically, he's definitely a technical guy. I mean, yeah, he's 40 years old, but it's heavyweight where it doesn't matter as much. But I just feel like Chris Daukaus definitely going to be the more dangerous. Definitely, if there's a finish, especially an early finish, I'm going to be leaning Chris Daukaus. I mean, I don't really see Shamil getting a finish unless Chris Daukaus were to slow down majorly by the third round. But, I mean, Chris has just been on a tear lately, and it's going to be hard to bet against them. Minus 200 at a heavyweight for a step up in competition. Not really one that I love. I don't like betting big favorites at heavyweight. But I do think it's his fight to lose. I mean, just Shamil with the long layoff and just going to be at a big strength and speed. I mean, maybe not strength, but power and speed advantage. Chris definitely isn't the biggest heavyweight, so maybe Shamil is stronger, but I think Chris hits harder and is more explosive and powerful and athletic. So I'm going to go Chris Daukaus. I think this is going to be a tougher fight for Chris, though. And I'm pretty torn between, second. I do think Shamil probably gets to at least the second round. If he gets out of the second, though, I'm probably going to go to decision. So I'm going to go. I would probably not play a prop on this if you were going to. But I would not rule out a decision. But I'm going to go second round TKO by Chris Daukaus. And let's move on to the next. Next up, we got Dan Hooker taking on Nasr Haqparast. And this fight's been clouded by all this stuff going on outside of the cage with Dan Hooker not being able to get his visa. He's not going to get to Vegas until Thursday, then wake up in the morning and have to make weight. And then it was even crazier because, I heard Nasrat's mother passed away. And then he was having visa issues, so he's dealing with that with his family. And on top of that, he's showing up to the fight late. So at first I was like, man, I like Dan Hooker in the matchup, but with everything going on with his visa and getting there late and last minute weight cut, maybe that makes me edge over to Nasrat. But if with Nasrat dealing with similar issues, which is kind of crazy, he was stuck in Germany, I believe, going there for the funeral. So he's dealing with personal issues. He's dealing with his own late last minute, arrival and weigh-in. So it's really a lot of X factors and question marks. I mean, who's going to handle that better? Who's got it worse between those? It's hard to say. I mean, but all that aside, I do feel like this is a good matchup for Dan Hooker. I mean, Nasrat, definitely a step up for him. I mean, he's fighting Rafa Garcia, Alex Munoz, Drew Dober, Joaquin Silva. These are decent fighters. Definitely, he's got some UFC experience at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But, you look at Dan Hooker's competition, and I mean, he put on the war with Dustin Poirier. He did get knocked out with Michael Chandler, but hey, that was Michael Chandler who just fought for a belt. Before then, he beat Paul Felder. That was a close fight, but still, Paul Felder's a dog. Quinta, James Vick, Edson Barbosa, Gilbert Burns, Jim Miller. They both fought Mark Diakase, Ross Pearson. He's just been fighting. He even fought Yair Rodriguez. He has a lot of fights in there. And I mean, just gonna have more experience, especially at the higher level. And I just feel like it's gonna play out mostly on the feet. And Dan Hooker, he's just he's so good at keeping his range. Typically, I just feel like he can keep Nasrat out at the end of his punches. Good knees up the middle, kick up the middle, elbows. In the clinch, I feel like Dan can do some work too. Put him up against the cage, knees, elbows. I mean, both these guys are at good gyms, City Kickboxing, TriStar. They're going to be prepared. They're both going to be in good shape. But stylistically, I do like Dan Hooker. There's just a lot of question marks with everything going on with both of them. I still lean Dan Hooker. I think Nasrat probably tough enough to survive. Probably Dan Hooker by decisions. It's only 3 rounds. But, there's just a lot of question marks right now on this fight. And so I'm going to have to lay off of it. But I am going to take Dan Hooker by decision. Next up, we got Marlon Moraes taking on Merab Dvalishvili. And this is a crazy fight. It's pretty crazy this isn't on the main card. But, Marlon Moraes obviously been on a rough little run lately. losing to Rob Font, losing to Corey Sandhagen. But you got to wonder if he should have been taking that Rob Font fight just 2 months after getting wheel kicked and knocked out by Corey Sandhagen. And then, I mean, even besides that, he's fighting Rob Font, Corey Sandhagen, Jose Aldo, Henry Cejudo, Rafael Assunção, Jimmy Rivera, Aljamain Sterling, John Dodson, Rafael Assunção again. Like, that's literally the top elite of the division. Merab's fought tough guys, but, Cody Stamann, John Dodson, Gustavo Lopez, Casey Kinney, Brad Katona. Those aren't bad fighters by any means, but it's definitely the middle pack of the division. He hasn't fought. This is the first time he's really broken into the upper elite level. And I know you might say, oh, Marlon's not there anymore. Well, that's who he's fought. So you can't knock Marlon. He's still part of that elite part of the division, even if he's been coming off some losses to other ones in that elite part. So Merab in this fight, it is I can see why he's such a big favorite, though, because you got Marlon, who's historically had a bad gas tank, comes out like a killer in that first round, but the longer you can extend him, he just starts to slow down. And Merab, he's got probably like the craziest pace and great cardio to go with it, but the craziest pace in the whole division. I mean, he just comes out and he'll shoot 25 takedowns. He just doesn't slow down. He doesn't stop. And training with Matt Serra, jiu-jitsu has only gotten better and better. He has been criticized like before for being able to get takedowns but not being able to control guys a lot. So he has to get more takedowns than really probably necessary because they're constantly getting back up and he has to take them back down. But, that pace is part of what breaks people, I think. And not a lot of people think he's going to be able to keep that up for 3 rounds. But then, typically he is. And in this fight, in this first round, he's going to have to really be on his P's and Q's because Marlon Moraes is dangerous as anybody in that first round. But if he can get out of that first round, I really do feel like it's his fight to lose. I mean, I just think he's going to be glued. His head's going to be glued to Marlon's chest. He's not going to be dumb enough to stay at range. If he is, every second he's at range on the feet with Marlon is danger. He could be knocked out at any point. But I just feel like, he's going to be smart enough to stay on his hips, just literally spam takedowns. And I think Marlon in that first round probably be able to stuff a couple and probably be able to land some good shots. But Merab's had a good chin so far. He's been durable. And I just feel like he's going to, at this point, Marlon's on that downswing. Merab's on the up. Merab might be, 30, almost 31, but he's only been looking better and better. I still think he's improving. I still think, he can be a contender. I mean, he's got some holes in his game, especially on the feet. Maybe a little bit, still some on, once he gets that takedown, staying on top, threatening those finishes. But I do think he's going to be able to get it done. I don't know if he's going to be able to finish Marlon. I really don't see that happening unless Marlon completely gasses. But I'm going to take Merab. I'm going to take him by decision. I might be looking at Merab by decision. I might be parlaying him. Wish I would have got on the line a little earlier, but it is what it is. So I'm going to take Moraes. I'm going to take him by decision. Next up, we got Jessica Andrade taking on Cynthia Calvillo. And, man, it's pretty crazy. Jessica Andrade's minus 280, but the more you look into it, the more I kind of get it. I mean, Jessica Andrade, the record, yeah, you see, it's been like a little bit of a rough patch, but look who she's fighting. Valentina Shevchenko. Kaylin Chookagian beat her with a dope knockout. And then lost to the champ, the former champ, and the champ of another division up. So the champion of the division above her, the current champion, and the champion before then. And then before that, her loss was to a champion. She's literally only losing to champions. And until Raquel Pennington back in 2015, she's improved a ton since there. Cynthia Calvillo, on the other hand, her last fight wasn't great. She fought Kaylin Chookagian as well, and Kaylin was able to just stuff the shots, pepper her on the feet, and outland her. And that Jessica Eye fight, she looked pretty good, but, Jessica Eye's been a little hit or miss, and she was able to go in there, take her down, control her, and just have better wrestling, better jiu-jitsu. But in this fight, I just think it's going to be tough On the feet, Jessica Andrade hits so much harder. Her striking actually is probably just in general better than Cynthia. Typically, Jessica's not the more technical striker. She gets away with just having more power and, just having that one-shot KO ability, and takedowns just keep you guessing. But in this fight, I actually feel like she's just got better striking in general than Cynthia. Cynthia's striking is not bad; it's gotten better, but she still seems like just uncomfortable getting hit. Really tries to stay out of the pocket, and which is smart against Jessica Andrade. But I feel like that's her only chance. Really, is to get in and take Jessica down, and that's a big that's a tall task against Jessica, who's probably the strongest girl in the entire division. And this is even at 125, where Jessica, she's fought at 115. She's fought for the belt at 115. But even at 125, I feel like Jessica's stronger than these girls. She's got that. She's only 5'1", that short center of gravity, lower center of gravity. That's not a girl who you really want to be shooting on a lot. Unless you're Valentina Shevchenko, but Valentina is just a different animal when she's mixing in all these different. She's mixing in her striking so well, so fluidly, that she can get away with things that Cynthia just is not capable of doing. I'm not saying Cynthia can't take her down, but she doesn't have the threats everywhere that Valentina does, which opens Jessica up to be taken down. Jessica's going to know that Cynthia's just looking to crash in, big right hand, and then shoot. And Cynthia doesn't really have a whole lot of other weapons. And Jessica's going to be better on the feet. She hits harder. And honestly, I think she could take Cynthia down too if she wants. So I'm going to go Jessica. I'm going to take her by decision, but I do think a TKO is possible, especially if Cynthia comes out and wrestles hard in that first round. I could see her gassing and Jessica landing something big. Jessica is a knockout artist. People don't expect it at this division, but girl hits like a truck. So I'm going to go Jessica Andrade. I'm going to take her by decision. Next up, we got Curtis Blaydes taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And, man, this breakdown is going to be a lot like Curtis Blaydes, the breakdown for his last fight. He's fighting a guy in Jairzinho Rozenstruik who doesn't throw a lot of volume, like Derek Lewis. Even less volume. Rozenstruik waits for that KO. On the feet, he's the higher credentialed striker than Curtis Blaydes, but I think Curtis Blaydes will throw more volume, be winning rounds, even if he doesn't wrestle, as long as he doesn't get knocked out. It's the same breakdown, so I'll keep it short as this Curtis Blaydes' last fight. He should be able to take Jairzinho. Everyone who's tried to take Rozenstruik down has taken him down. Even Alistair Overeem was, able to grapple him up. And I just feel like in this fight, Curtis Blaydes is going to be able to take him down whenever he wants. It's just, can he avoid that big shot? Rozenstruik's going to be waiting. At least it's only 3 rounds, so we don't have to see Rozenstruik 25 minutes just charging up a right hand. Can be a little frustrating to watch, but Curtis Blaydes, I just feel like going to land more volume, going to be able to hit takedowns. I get why he's a huge favorite. Now it's a little too soon after that Derek fight for me to take Curtis as a big favorite again against another knockout artist. Especially, it's been a couple times now. We've seen him, one was a doctor stoppage due to cuts with Francis. The other one was Francis. Then the other one was Derek Lewis. So his 3 losses are all by knockout, but they're all by, one's a doctor stoppage, and the other 2 are to the biggest hitters on the fucking planet. But, still, we got to see this, he can go. The last knockout was brutal. It's a similar matchup. I do think Curtis should for sure be be the favorite. Minus 300 is just a little scary. Minus 320, because we obviously saw what could happen in the last fight. I'm still going to go with Curtis Blaydes. I think he's going to be taken down. He's going to land more volume, and I think he should easily win this decision, 30-27, if not 30-26. But Rozenstruik obviously has a puncher's chance. Obviously packs a hell of a punch. Could definitely knock Curtis Blaydes out. But I'm going to go Curtis Blaydes. I'm going to go by decision again. But could he ground and pound him out? Definitely. Next up, we got the people's main event. We got Robbie Lawler taking on Nick Diaz in the rematch. Nick Diaz been off for 8 years. He's been off for 6 years, but he hasn't won a fight in 8 years. one of my all-time favorite fights, or favorite fighters. I mean, actually, it's been like, damn, that's crazy. BJ Penn win, 2011, almost 10 years ago. That's nuts. But if you go way down here, Robbie Lawler knocked him out in the second round. Famous fight for all the shit Nick Diaz was talking. And this fight, man, I could go on and talk about these guys. I love both these guys, but I don't want to keep y'all too long because this is one that I don't plan on betting because there's just so many question marks, man. You could start with Robbie. Everyone's like, oh, he looks terrible. He hasn't looked great, that's for sure. He's looking hesitant, which he never looked before, and that's never a good sign when fighters start to look hesitant, start to look gun shy, especially a guy like Robbie Lawler. But Neil Magny, okay, that was the lowest end that he's fought, and even he is a beast. Besides that, Colby Covington, okay, the Ben Askren fight I thought was fluky as hell. We don't need to get into that. He beat the shit out of Ben Askren. There was a weird choke, and Herb Dean stopped it. Is what it is. RDA, Donald Cerrone, Tyron Woodley was the knockout loss he had, and before then he was on his tear. Only loss in this area was Johnny Hendricks, who was at that point pre-USADA and beasting. Nick Diaz, definitely, in his prime, you would say, if Robbie doesn't get him out of there early, Nick's probably going to be able to overwhelm him. It's 5 rounds, even though it's only it's not a main event or a title fight. So you got to think typically Diaz, if Robbie can't get him out of there, which Diaz always been iron chin, always been super durable. Diaz could start to come on strong towards the end because of his cardio, but we just don't know where he's at. I mean, I've been following Diaz his whole 6-year layoff, and I'm just seeing him in the nightclub every night and partying. Both these guys, 38, 39. There's just so many question marks. We just don't know where Nick's at. At least I have a somewhat of an idea of where Robbie's at. Because, at least he's been fighting. He hasn't been looking great, but at least he's been fighting. Nick Diaz hasn't been fighting. He hasn't fought in 6 years. I'm sure he's training, even though I know he's been partying too. I'm sure he's been training, but how much? Has he been fight ready? It's just too many question marks. I just could not let myself bet my hard-earned money on him as much as he's one of my favorite fighters of all time, if not my favorite fighter of all time. If I absolutely gun to the head had to make a pick, I'd have to pick Robbie because, yeah, Nick has finished him. That's the one thing Nick has going for him. And, yeah, Robbie hasn't looked great, but it's just, man, you can say ring rust isn't a thing, but at this point, man, it's something. 6 years is a lot, man, and it's just too much against it where I just could not let myself bet this. But I'm gonna go Robbie. Man, it'd be crazy if he TKO'd him. If that happened, it would just be Nick would have to show up, just not himself, which is very possible. I mean, he hasn't fought in so long, but I'm gonna lean Robbie. I guess I'll say decision. I mean, it's just weird to picture him getting finished, but a TKO is definitely possible. This is just one I'm just watching as a fan. I'm enjoying. My heart says Diaz. If you put a gun to my head, I'd have to say we gotta lean Robbie, but I'm rooting for Nick. I do love Robbie too, but Nick is my boy. I'm pulling for him, but would not bet this fight. Next up, we got the co-main event, and this is going to be a short breakdown. We got Valentina Shevchenko taking on Lauren Murphy. She's minus 1,300. Some books are like minus 1,500. It is what it is. Lauren Murphy, she's on a couple of these wins have been a little shaky. You could argue that Andrea Lee or Roxanne Modafferi, even the Joanne Calderwood, close decisions, but hey, she's fucking been winning. They gotta give somebody the title shot. It is what it is. She's big, she's durable, but other than that, I just think Valentina has her beat everywhere. Better kicks, better boxing, better at mixing up all the striking, elbows, knees, better at mixing in the striking into the grappling, better jiu-jitsu, better wrestling, better on the cage. They're both durable. It's not like Valentina is got a weakness there. She's just as durable. Maybe Lauren has a slight size advantage, But other than that, I just don't see it. I think Valentina, the only thing you really could possibly do is inside the distance or by decision is their only real like question. Um, I would lean. Man, it's tough. I would probably lean a late finish, but Lauren hasn't been knocked out, so it's over. I would probably have to pick Valentina by decision. I think she just takes her time. It's not like she opens up, but she takes her time. She's not in a rush to get a finish. She just outclasses girls, and so I'm gonna take Valentina by decision. But I do think like a fourth round TKO is likely as well. It's gonna be one of the two, late finish or decision. We have seen Lauren very durable, but we haven't had to see her go 5 rounds. So maybe she tires out, and then Valentina can be the first one to finish her. But I'm gonna go Valentina by decision overall. And the main event, awesome fight for the 45 strap. We got Alexander Volkanovski taking on Brian Ortega. And Volkanovski, man, 22-1. He's on a crazy run right now. Only loss is way back in 2013 against Corey Nelson. And then since then, came into the UFC, just been on an absolute tear. Beat Kasuya, beat Hirota, beat Young, beat Jeremy Kennedy. Then he started getting a little bit of a step up. Darren Elkins, Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, Max Holloway twice. Now, I'm going to be honest, I thought Max definitely clearly won. Well, it was a close fight, but Max did all the damage. I thought Max deserved the second fight. I thought Alex did win the first fight, as much of a Max fan as I am. I thought Alex won the first fight, and Max won the second fight. They're still super competitive, and Alex has just shown, man, this dude is so technical everywhere. If this was before Brian's last fight, I think he would run through Brian. But I gotta say, man, Brian in his last fight looked better than ever. He took that long layoff after Max Holloway, like a full 2 years. 2 years, 2 year layoff after Max Holloway absolutely brutalized them. And went in there against Chan Sung Jung and definitely looked better than ever. Striking looked better than ever. Looked like he's just boxing has just gotten a lot better. Bald Ortega is definitely a level up for sure. But I just feel like on the feet, Alexander Volkanovski is still gonna have a striking advantage. He's so hard to hit. Max is really the only one we've seen like hit him flush since his third fight of his career, I should say. And since then he's just gotten so much better. I mean, like the guy's 5'6", but he has the longer reach than Ortega is. He actually has almost a 2-inch reach 2.5-inch reach on Ortega, which is kind of crazy. He's only 5'6", but he's got long arms. He's hard to hit. His defense is so sound. His feints are just like best in the division. I mean, Max is right there with him, but like his gym, even not just City Kickboxing, but his freestyle fighting gym and the Tiger Muay Thai, they're just big on feinting, and you can see it in Volkanovski's game. I mean, he's just constantly feinting, whether it's striking into his grappling into his striking. He just mixes it all up so good. He's really good on top. We haven't really seen people put him on his back, but maybe that's something Brian could look to do. I don't think he's going to be able to take Volkanovski down, but maybe he could get a sweep if Volkanovski takes him down. But you got to think Volkanovski is going to know how dangerous Ortega is and primarily try to keep this on the feet. Maybe takedowns at the end of rounds. I mean, Volkanovski has a super high fight IQ, fights super smart. Maybe he'll mix in some takedowns late in the rounds like he did in that 5th round of Max, which maybe stole the round. I didn't think it should, but it could have. It looks good for the judges when you end the fight on top. And other than that, I don't think he's going to be coming in here trying to wrestle Ortega, who's, obviously got super high-level jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Ortega's striking has gotten better. His boxing has looked better than ever, but I don't think his striking is on Volkanovski's level. I think Volkanovski has more weapons. Ortega did show that spinning back elbow, which is clearly he's been working some new weapons in his last fight, but Volkanovski just so good at mixing it all up. The punches, the kicks, the elbows, the knees. I just think mixing right into his shots, his clinch work where he's really strong. Not just strong in the clinch, which he is, but he's also just technical in the clinch. His head placement's always perfect. His feet are always exactly where they need to be. And I just feel like, he's just a more technical, more versatile fighter than Brian Ortega. So I'm going to go Volkanovski. I don't think he'll finish Ortega. I'm going to go by decision. But, Brian Ortega is definitely a live dog. I don't think Brian Ortega is going to be winning the decision over Volkanovski. I think he's going to have to finish him, probably have to catch his neck somewhere. But I think as long as Volkanovski doesn't make a big mistake, this is his fight to lose. So I'm going to go Alexander Volkanovski by decision. And that's going to be it. I appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks for, I know I'm a little later in the card. I wanted to drop this yesterday, but I actually broke my mic cord. If some of y'all know, if you watch my stream, it was hanging on by a thread for like 3 years, and my procrastinating ass never got a new one. But I just got a new one just in time to put this video out right before I go to class. I got to go train. So I appreciate you guys watching. I ran through these. There was a couple fights I wanted to stay off. The one that just got booked today. Valentina, I went through a couple of those quick because I'm not going to just fucking talk about. I'm going to stick to the fights that I have a betting interest on. And obviously that newly booked fight, I'm going to wait, see what I think about it. I'm put it up on Twitter, what I think. So follow my Twitter. It's going to be in the caption below. My Twitch. Make sure you give Pry a follow. I'm going to put his link down there. We're going to be doing a post-fight breakdown of these cards. We want to do a pre-fight. We're going to mix it up, maybe do a little of both. We want to start doing those together. We've been talking about doing that for a while. But like I said, I broke my cord yesterday, and I was like, okay, we're so last minute at this point. I'll put out my betting video, but we'll do a video, post-fight. So look out for that. I appreciate you guys, man. The Twitch, the Twitter will be on there. Make sure you leave a like, a comment. I'll go back and forth with you guys. Always love doing that. And enjoy the fights. I'll tweet out all my bets as always. Hopefully you come through for the fights and watch on Twitch. Other than that, I appreciate you, and peace.